I have to talk like this for a second to make sure that we are live. And then I'll say we are joined by Frankie, joined in this hour for some poetry. One second here. Okay, we're live. We're joined this hour by Frankie Nez. Please share us a poem.
Okay, are we on?
You're on.
Okay, so I'm going to read this poem where you and I did a reading together, like 2 months ago? And so I heard that this was a topic of discussion for after the reading y'all kind of hung out with. Yeah, so what's that?
Yeah, over at Annalina's, yeah.
Helena, yeah, so that was awesome. So this is a poem. It's called Jealousy, and it was actually inspired by a night out with a fellow poet, Liz Gonzalez. So we went to go see some bands play. So Jealousy. I wanted to be his guitar, the way he lifted her up in worship, rubbed her curved body against his abs as he stroked. Couldn't he run his palm up and down the back of my spine, tease my hollowness, make me sing? I wanted him to be excited, to deliberately maneuver me, transfer his creative energy to my instrumental torso. It's a little early in the day for that, but I guess maybe not. What the heck? We're in this place of like, is there really time? Does time exist? Like, what does it all mean? It's all brand new now.
Yeah, I have a vague notion that today is a thing called Tuesday because there are things I'm supposed to accomplish on Tuesday. So today's Tuesday, yeah, right? So that's kind of it. So what inspired this poem?
Well, a while back, Liz Gonzalez and we used to like hang out. She's a fellow writer. She's got an amazing book called Dancing in the Santa Ana Winds. And so we used to go and see bands play, and she would date people in bands and I would date people in bands. And so one night we'd go out and there was just this incredible band, and the guitar player was just I always feel like musicians are or any artist, but musicians in particular, for me, are very gifted in the sense that they can be the portal to something that's above us, and it comes through them and to the rest of us. So I tend to really love musicians for that reason, and different artists. So this guitar player, of course, he was beautiful, and he just played the guitar in a way that I felt like for the first time I was like, I want to be his guitar, right? And I mean, he was like playing it above his head, and he was like playing it with his teeth. It was just like really, and we were in just this little place in Pasadena, and we had a great time. So I met him that night. I never spoke to him again. He has no idea that this poem has gone on to
a life of
its own, and I get requests for it, and some people are like, oh, you're the one who has that guitar poem, so anyway, yeah.
So that was the next question I had as this gentleman heard this poem. But okay, so the poem I saw you, or the show we did together, was at the closing show of last year of the Palabra series over at Avenue 50.
Right.
So for those in our audience who might be familiar, can you tell our audience a little bit about Avenue 50, the Palabra series, and some of the other places that you like that you frequent and share your poetry at?
Where?
Let's talk about Palabra first, and then we can talk more about the LA poetry scene, because people watching right now are from all over the place, so that not necessarily all from LA,
Right. Yeah. So, that Avenue 50 studio has been such a really great hub for all artists of different types to collaborate. So they have, you know, showings of artists, with through paintings and sculptures. They have musical performances. They have private performances there as well. And La Palabra has been around for a long time. Actually, you know, it was originally created by one of my other friends and fellow writers supporters, um, Rafael, and he was very much of like, I went on hiatus for a while. Like, I went and I started a family, and my writing wasn't at the forefront. And when I came out of that particular part of my life and was single again, Raphael was really great, and other people as well, in getting me back out into the scene. So there's a really amazing literary scene in LA. I've been very fortunate to be asked to perform at venues like Beyond Baroque. That's in Venice, California, and it's also an amazing resource for different types of writers and artists in the literary world and stuff. So I was actually, like, Highways Performance Space, excuse me. I was actually going to produce a like a 90s revival of the art scene that was happening, particularly in the Latino world in LA in like the 90s. That was kind of in the vein of Troy Cafe, where we all kind of were born, and we just had like this amazing opportunity. There was this vortex of up and coming art energy, in particular the Latino world. So it was like Luis Alfaro and Gloria Alvarez, and I remember one time Shaka, the graffiti artist, he kept getting put in jail for tagging his art and on the walls and stuff, and he got out of jail and he was there, and saying his poetry, and it was such an amazing time back then. So I was actually in May going to produce an event at Highways Performance Space, which is also very respected and in being a venue for all types of artists of all walks of life. So
poetry. Yeah. So in addition to being a poet, you work in film and television. Can you tell our viewing audience a little bit about some of your work on the screen or behind the scenes? And tell us what you do.
Well, I actually produce independent. It's been primarily independent film, and some, I do a lot of development of TV projects. So had helped a friend of mine and a colleague develop a film. I mean, not a film, but a TV show that ended up on being on Mundos at the time, which is an NBC kind of English language Latin TV channel. So I find my work a lot in development because I like the creative process. So I like what is it that we want to say, and putting the content together in a format that when you're pitching it to a network or a streamer or whatever, they're able to understand the concept. So I go from the art of it and the creativity of it to the business of it. And I used to work at Warner Brothers for a while, so I understand both the independent perspective and also the corporate side of it and what they're looking for.
Yeah. So I mean, many artists, they're very, there's a lot of talent in our community, but there's not necessarily a lot of, like, oftentimes, the business sense or a sense of like how to go about getting our art out there, getting this. What advice would you have to those listening now who are definitely artistically inclined. They're definitely ready to get out there and share their work with the world, but they just don't have. They don't really know what's next. What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I would say, do your research. If you like a particular TV show or cable show or whatever, you know, do the research. Find out, how did that come, who was the writer, who had the idea, who took it, what is the lifespan of that project, right? And I would also say don't. mm, we have to be inclusive, right? So we want the industry to include us, but then we say, well, you don't include us. And, we have this kind of, we can have a chip on our shoulder. And the chip on the shoulder can only take you so far because no matter what you're doing, whether it's this entertainment industry or anything you're doing, it has to be inclusive and it has to start with us, including other people. So, do your research, hone your craft. If you want to write, study writing. Whose writing do you like? And download those scripts, and they're accessible. And really, don't give when I put projects together, it's so competitive. Don't give people a reason to say no. Have all your homework done. Do everything that you possibly can. So, when you walk out of a pitch room, you know, well, I did everything I could, and it's not personal. It's not. It's just not what they're looking for, or it's not this time for that project to be alive in the world, right? So I would also say if you can, produce your own content, get your iPhone, do say what you have to say, put your message out there. Um, don't let anything stop you from having your art out in the world exactly how it is in this moment and build from there. The entertainment industry, it's not just like a, one shot deal. This is a lifetime, a commitment to having, to have our stories out there. And it's discouraging. It's one of the most difficult things. One of my friends at Warner Brothers one time told me, he goes, this is the only industry I know where you can go to school, get an education, work your whole life, and not be successful at it. Like it's the only career path, right? Filmmaking. But you do it anyway. So I hope that answers your question.
No, definitely. You mentioned today. You mentioned just now. The idea that today you can produce your own content, and then that could like lead to more things. And I think that's in some ways that's the way things have always been. But today the technology and the ability to do that is more and more in people's hands, right? And so
Yes.
and so um no, I completely agree with you. People need to produce their content to see what happens. I mean, so yeah, could you speak a little more to that, to just encouraging people to produce their own content and see worst things happen,
Yeah.
just film themselves. The next thing you know, they're whatever.
Yeah, well, so like for instance, if you create a YouTube channel, if you get, a certain amount of followers, I think it's like 1,000, they start the algorithms start to support you, right? So then they're going to start pushing content or pushing viewers to your content, right? And so it could be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. Produce your content, trial and error. Your first stuff may not look great. It may not have the production value that you love, but like this serves as a microphone into your iPhone or and every cycle of phones is got a better camera. It's got so everything is there for us. Do your research. How many followers do you need on YouTube to have start getting paid actually?
Yeah.
I think Instagram is 10,000 and YouTube used to be 1,000. I don't know exactly like right now today what it is. And support other content creators. So if you want somebody to like your Instagram page, go like 20 Instagram pages that are very similar to yours. And so, yeah, that's just get your content out there. Don't be afraid. Do it all the time. Do 1 a week, 2 a week, and have fun with it. Most importantly, have fun. If it's not fun,
Yeah.
don't do it.
I remember years ago, I did this show. It was like this kind of like this it was a show that was kind of like a variety show, really strange. It was at the Alexandria in downtown LA. And together by this guy named Robert Beanie. He like had like a hat and a clown. Anyway, so I go up, and then after that, there's this experimental jazz band, and this guy gets on stage. He's wearing like suspenders and like leather pants and like a saxophone. He's got a mullet. And I'm like, who's this guy, right? Anyways, it was a band called Just Push LA. It was fronted by a guy named Sergio Flores. But then like weeks later, Sergio Flores is like a viral YouTube hit with something called Sexy Sax Man. And he had been like he had been filming Sexy Sax Man earlier that day. Right? Which is like, for those who don't know, I mean, I think a lot of people know, the Sexy Sax Man is this guy going around playing Careless Whisper in like 10 different locations or something like that. And then, you know, within like 2 or 3 months, this guy's on Jimmy Kimmel, or he's on I think it might have been either Jimmy Kimmel or Fallon. But he's on Kimmel or Fallon. He's on late night television, you know, doing the Sexy Sax Man. So like an example, and then there's so many others, but that's an example of just creating their own content. And now they were on television, you know.
They're on television, or some development, you know, assistant sees something and they're like, oh my God, they take it to their boss, and it's just next thing you know, they're, you know, you're getting paid to talk, you know, to develop something, right? I mean, some things that get developed, just so you know, they never see the light of day. They never get produced, but you know, there's all different types of ways to make money. And be true to your heart. Just, what is this that you want to say? And just say it. Be unapologetic, like you, with you and your poetry and your performing. You just put it out there, and it's so. I haven't seen. I haven't been in person or shared the podium with somebody like you in a long time, where you're just like out there and just really filling the room with all this energy that. No matter what your political beliefs are, it just really leaves people excited about something. So I invite people to check you out, and also to, you know, just do their version of that.
Well, I appreciate that. But for instance, like even this right now, like these interviews that I've been doing, I don't know what they're going to lead to. I know that it's been interesting. I mean, talking to people's interesting, and hearing different stories. So even if it leads to nothing, it was interesting to do it. But like, you know, the way I am, I'm sure the fact that these have been compiled will end up in like an archive, or end up at a university, or something will come of them. I'm not just gonna like, oh, that was fun, now it's done. You know, I'm gonna find something. I'm gonna find someone who's gonna want these. And I don't know if it'll ever be monetized, but I know that it'll enhance me. It'll enhance everyone that participated in it. And I know that ahead of time. I mean, I just know that like if I end up putting hours into something, it's gonna take on a life of its own, and then it's gonna take my life somewhere where my life wasn't before that.
Right. Do you know who Flavio Morales is? I'm calling him out here. Okay, so Flavio and Richard Estrada, and I apologize, I don't know the other guy's name offhand. They created a group called the Illegal Interns, and it was in East LA. It was, like I said, during the 90s, when all this like art, kind of this, it was just this artist renaissance of Latino artists, I want to say. And so they would go, they had like a local cable show in East LA. The local cable channel was called Buenavision. So back then you put on Channel 3 and it's the local cable, right? And they had original programming. And it was owned by Moctezuma Esparza, who has produced like all these amazing movies like Selena and just like a whole bunch of stuff. So the illegal interns used to go to all of our performances and record them and then put them on this channel. And so, he's gone on and he's a big shot, like executive at, one of the largest production organizations in the world and developing Latino content. Not just Latino content, but all kinds of content. But, he's done some phenomenal things along his career, and that's where it started. So just to speak to your point, now they have all of that archived. I mean, and they were at the premiere of Selena, and they interviewed Jennifer Lopez back then, and also us local kind of poets and local bands, and so just to your point, again, just produce your content and just keep doing it. You never know where it's going to lead, where it's going to take you, where it's going to take other people.
Yeah, definitely. Frankie, do you have any more poems for us?
Wow. Yeah. Let's see. Yikes. So just so you know, being a producer, I don't like being in front of the camera. This is really nerve-wracking. But so I started this blog. Being single, I'm a Buddhist, so I started this blog called Dating While Buddhist. So let's see. I will read something from a series that I am writing called I Do This Every Thursday. So this is called I Do This Every Thursday. So right before this all happened, I went on a date with somebody who's just really amazing, and we had a really fun time, and it was so great. Like he's like, is this like just like every day what happens? I'm like, yeah, I do this every Thursday. So I started a series. I do this every Thursday, shelter in place. I will wear an N95 mask for you, share all my quarantine food with you, wash my hands 1,000 times for you, share my unlimited data with you. I'll accompany you on a walk 6 feet away from you, foot bump hello and goodbye with you, Zoom and FaceTime and WhatsApp anytime with you, send all of my virtual love to you. Play music and dance close if you want me to. Eat meals carefully made by you. Listen your dreams right out of you. Call them things I heard you say about you. So that's for everybody. Yeah, so I have one more in that series. I don't mind reading it. I do this every Thursday, crown. I want to run my thumb gently across your lips, memorize crevices and textures, absorb the flicker of your skin with both my palms, trace fingertips across your eyes. I share visions across oceans when I hear surf crashing from my bed in darkness. My fingerprints sobre mí y tú, evidence imperceptible to everyone but you. So yeah, I have a lot to think about, like everybody, when in this quarantine, and it's nice to have inspiration.
Yeah. You're still writing. You're still writing in this time period. You're still actively getting things done. What are your what's some advice you have for people who want to take this? I mean, if people want to relax, they can relax. I'm not here to tell everyone to get to work, but if people want to use this time to be productive at the time, what are some advices? Because a lot of us are not used to like just sitting at home and being kind of in a weird way our own boss. We're not used to that. So how do you what advice?
Yeah. I say, get up and get your coffee and sit down and write. And I say, later on, whenever the mood strikes, just, sometimes I'm getting my phone out and I'm just like going because it's there. And we have a lot of feelings right now and there's nowhere to put them. Like typically people can, overwork, right? Or you can go out and party, or you can do a lot of things to deal with all of your stress and the feelings that we typically have. And we don't have that right now. So this is the time to write and, have a notebook, put it into your phone and your notes, sit at your computer. Sometimes I'll just sit with some wine and just go for it um, and just write. You just give yourself permission to have fun. Make lunch and sit and write. Go walk outside and sit on your porch and write, or whatever it is, you do. So that's what I would say. You have to do it. I was talking to somebody and I said, this is like the dark ages, and there's gonna be a renaissance that comes out of this pandemic. And it's up to us artists to create something that is gonna when the gates open up again, like we need to flood it. We need to flood it with our art. So right now, just you can't go to happy hour. Sorry. You gotta sit down and write or whatever it is you do. So enjoy that. Indulge yourself. And don't apologize. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, don't apologize. I like that. Don't apologize. You've made reference a few times to this place, Cafe Troy. Is this I've always heard these stories about a place where like Lalo Alcaraz and Richard Montoya and all that.
Yes.
That's Cafe Troy?
Yes. So it's in Little Tokyo, and I think there's a metro station there now. And before that, it was Atomic Cafe. And Sean Carrillo and Bibi Henson owned it, and they're amazing. Bibi, just a little background. So Bibi was part of the whole Andy Warhol kind of group, and she's Beck, the musical artist. That's his mother, and Sean is his stepfather. And they lived in, I believe it was Echo Park. And so they opened up Troy Cafe, and so they would have art on the walls, and they would have events all the time. And way at the beginning, you never knew, who was going to be serving your coffee. And it was just a really amazing time for all of us, and it was a place for us to go any day of the week, and just hang out and participate in their events that they have.
So you saw early versions of Beck.
Yeah, well, what I remember was more than him like performing or anything. I remember him just like hanging out and like doing barista stuff.
So audiences or Beck enthusiasts out there can now fully understand why Beck speaks so much Spanish in his songs.
Oh my God, it was the heart. That place was the heart for all of us, So yeah, he's definitely one of us.
Yeah, no, definitely. You can definitely feel the influence. You definitely, right before this, I was talking to a poet, David Lau, who's in the Bay, but he writes a lot about poetry in general and just different places. And he was talking about some of the some Asian American poets that were in the LA area, but how deeply influenced they were by just LA itself, right? So you could definitely feel, and you mentioned Cecil Foster, who is a great writer, a legendary writer, who writes out of City Terrace, right? So there's kind of this you know, no matter, there's your background, but then growing up in LA, you're gonna come into contact with other people, and that is gonna shape you, And I think that is
Yes.
an example of that.
Yes. So, to that point, I mean, I grew up in East LA, right? And born there, raised there, and there were a lot of Russians, there were a lot of Jewish people, there were a lot of Japanese people we were all there together. I mean, now Cesar Chavez in East LA, it used to be called Brooklyn Avenue, because there were a lot of Jewish people from New York that came to that area and populated it and stuff. So it's got a really rich history, East LA. And Seshu, of course, was also, I do believe I shared the podium with him a couple times at, maybe at Troy, I don't know, it's a big blur, but I mean, he's definitely has just such respect by, the rest of us. He's amazing. So is he up in the Bay Area now? Because I've heard his name kind of come up again and recently.
I think Seshu's in Alhambra. I think he's not far at all. I think last I heard he was in Alhambra. But yeah. David Lau is definitely teaches at Santa Cruz.
Oh, got it.
And he was talking about different parts of the country, but he also mentioned LA. He started talking about kind of this regional kind of culture down here and up there too. So it's just we're very much shaped. We're from a part of the world that produced the Korean taco. So that's just we're from a part of the world that produced backhand. From a part of the world
right.
that has these kind of these combinations. So definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely culture comes into contact and it becomes culture unto itself. It becomes a new culture. It becomes something that's its own thing. So
yeah, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think I was having a conversation earlier today, and what we came up the conclusion was we have to be inclusive. We can't, because I'm a Buddhist, but I was raised Catholic, and my friend was sharing some inspiration with me, and she says, it's Christian, is that okay? I'm like, heck yeah, like I have that belief too. And so it was really great to be able to have her say what she has to say and say what I have to say about it. And we can't cut things off because we don't like them. That's not the way to actually transform anything. It's kind of inclusive and understanding. Doesn't mean we have to agree. It's just if we can come together and not and I know a lot of things make us angry. I'm pissed off all the freaking time, but then what, right? Then what?
Yeah,
is the question. Then the Korean taco happens.
That's great. So I think there is this question though that we do see ourselves as Latino people making up Latinos. There's a lot of different groups. There's Mexicans, Salvadorans, there's Puerto Ricans. Collectively, right? We make about 17% of the country, and yet we find ourselves only like 3% of this, 2% of that, 4% of that. We are not, for whatever reason, we're not fully represented in reality. I mean, our real presence in this country is not fully represented, in film, television, academia, all these places where we define like what the country is and what life is and all this. So what is it? What is it? I mean, and there's, our numbers have jumped a lot within. So there may be a period of time it takes to catch up, right? But what is it that people should be doing and whatever, so that our voices can be heard and we can be on, in film, in television, on newscasts. I mean, what do we need to be doing?
Yeah, again, it goes back to, just sitting down and doing it and just making the time to do it, right? So whatever the it of your thing is, whatever that is for you. And second is if you go somewhere and you get something, or you're in a door that people don't typically get into, take somebody with you. You know, when I was at Warner, you know, I got my friend's job. I brought my friends in. I was like, hey, there's a job here. You'd be good for it. Boom. You know, when we're in those conference rooms and we're in those rooms where they're making the decisions, that is that is you know, we have influence. So bring somebody with you. You know, don't hoard the success. Don't hoard the context, the context, contacts. Excuse
Contact.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't hoard that. Like share them, right? And I don't know. And I'm just gonna say this, and I know I'm gonna get some shit for it, but I don't really care. You know, as Latinos, sometimes we're like, you know, we 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 say, well, you know, the Mexicans are here, and then the Cubans are there, and the Puerto Ricans are there, and then we get mad because, you know, something happens that we don't agree with, and whatever it is, if we get a Latino, if there's any kind of Latin project that is getting some momentum, support it, no matter what. We can say we don't like it, but to publicly say it, there's stuff that's been out there that I personally don't like it, right? But I'm not going to put it down in a public forum because it's out there. And if the industry, because they're watching and they think they got it wrong, they're going to cut it. And if we're complaining about our own content, they're going to go, okay, that's not working. They don't know. Like they don't know. We know, and it's our responsibility to support things that are out there so that more doors open. You know, like, you know, African Americans, like, you know, they go on, you know, I know it's going to be different now, but opening weekend on a feature film, they go, they pay their $15 or whatever it is, and they get the numbers because they understand how the industry works. Like opening weekend is everything, right? So African Americans have historically supported one another. They may not like it, it doesn't matter. They're like, I gotta go to the theater because um, this has to be successful.
Yeah. I think.
So so anyway, if we could look at those models that work and do that, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, the success is there for us to study and to model after. So anyway.
We saw it happens, but it happens too sporadically. Like we saw that happen when you're describing with the Coco, right? So Coco was a big financial success.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful and it was authentic, and they brought in people like Lalo and, you know, Herb, and, you know, like people that really know the culture, and it was inclusive, right? And that was part of why it worked, because people that we love as artists and that we've been following their art and supporting their art got to be a part of it, and so it was a big win for us, and it was a big win for them, and it was beautiful. Yeah. Too. So, I mean, wow.
Well, I think that victories at that level, right? There's a way in which it changes the dynamic, like so that things can happen for you know, at each level of like a pyramid almost. So like, so the fact that Coco could be like successful somehow ends up affecting like people down here whose politics may be way to the left, way to the left, like myself, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is that if Coco can be the #1 movie in America, that actually helps me in a way that I could be like the #1 political poet or something like that, right? Because there's a consciousness that like, okay, it is totally possible for a Latino piece of art, or specifically Mexican thing can speak for like the country as a whole, can speak to the country as a whole, can whatever, and not be just something that the Mexicans are doing over there. It becomes something that like is like, no, this is the standard, period. This is great, period. This is not great for them, or yeah, they're doing their thing over there, but that's not really the thing. That actually changes when you have something that's like really successful and it's part of the national conversation or the national consciousness. And there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in that ends up changing the game for everything.
Right.
But we have to
Exactly. And though,
happen one after
go ahead.
another. It has to be one every 10 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So when that happens, it's like support it. Support. I don't care if you hate Disney. People hate Disney. We all know, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I have others, but you know what? If Disney does something that benefits us, support them. Get in those rooms. Like have it that, they're not gonna wanna like have like how can I say this? God. Um have it that they're gonna want us to be in the rooms, okay? If you're screaming and yelling, they're not it just no people don't respond to that. It's just be angry. I'm not saying don't be angry, but if you want more cocos and you want more collaboration in that sense, um, speak to the positive of what worked so that we can have more of that.
Yeah.
That's been my perspective on the on my career and being in the entertainment industry.
It just seems like, in the 80s there was La Bamba, right? All of a sudden La Bamba put us on like the front page of American culture, and in like 90s you had like Selena, both her music and the film.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently Coco, but it's like these things are all like spaced 15, 20 years apart.
Yeah.
And you can't build momentum that way. You can't build, I mean, so something has to shift where there's one of these every like 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
where we're, and the reason I'm arguing is it's not so that people can make money. It's not so that, and people should make money. So I'm not against it either, but like, it's not about that. It's more about if that happens, whether you like these movies or not. I mean, even to hate them is to have an opinion about them that can be discussed with millions of people. So we need to be able to be in a position to be discussed or discuss ourselves or have discussions that could engage millions of people around the fact that we live here. The fact that we live
Right.
here is not a discussion that is had in this country. I mean, it's because we're not part of these giant things that put us in the national consciousness on a regular enough basis. I mean, whether people are working there or not, our stories are not highlighted enough for us to even think of ourselves as existing that level. We know we're here and we know we live, we know we're alive, but like
Everybody knows we're here.
yeah, everybody knows we're here, but they don't want to. But they only want to acknowledge we're here every 20 years. So we have to find a way to make it happen more. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and just in my approach, and it's not everybody's approach, but this is what works for me, right? So I'm out there pitching right now. I'm like part of a TV series that has nothing to do with. It's not a Latin story. It's not in the, but I'm Latina. I'm a producer. There are initiatives that actually they want to. It's to our benefit that I'm part of the team. I didn't come onto the team to fill that void. It came afterwards. But the woman that I'm collaborating with is like this white, just like the typical, like, not middle age, but she's very creative and she's a very successful screenwriter, right? And so I say, this is what I have. She's my friend. This is what I have. These are my resources. So we develop stuff and we're out. We're out like right now, right? In this pandemic, that project is out there. So I am inclusive in everything that I do. So it doesn't matter if it's Latino or white or African American. If I like a project, I'm going to take it on. Okay. So, we have to be the ones, and this is just my approach. The inclusiveness has to start with me. I can't be, I'm only doing this and I'm only working with these kinds of people. I mean, I am discretionary. I don't work with people that I don't like or I feel like I can't trust. Okay. And that spans across,
demographics,
all cultures. Yeah. I mean, I've gone to go work for people who are like, yeah, we're all for this and for that. And then they don't pay. Right. And I'm like, well, how can you say that you're, pro something or other when you're not actually walking your talk here, um, so the inclusiveness starts with me. And if if I'm going into those doors and I'm sitting in those rooms, I'm bringing people with me. I'm not just keeping it for myself. So,
Yeah.
that's just me though. I know I'm not, I've always kind of gotten some, backlash for my approach to things and not, but I just, it's just what works for me. And on my spiritual journey and my transformational journey and trying to make a difference for people and trying to be somebody out there that is, representing the community, I feel these things are very important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm known for having pretty strident, revolutionary type politics, but I mean, I never. It's never to the exclusion of anyone.
No.
It's always something. It's very. I mean, people. It's not something I'm saying. I mean, I have evidence of it. People can look at the interviews they've conducted. I mean, it's very clear that everyone's welcome. So.
Yeah, no, and just to I love your work. I love what you do, and you do it in the context of being an artist. And it's like, this is what you have to say. And there's that part of it that I was, that I said earlier, don't apologize for it. Not that you are, okay. But and I love that about you. You just go out there and you say what you have to say. And what's great about doing it in the context of your performing is that somehow you reach something in anyone who's in the room, and that is you being true to your what you have to say, true to your voice, true to what you think, and then it's done. There's a place for that. Obviously, because before all this you were like on tour and doing so well, so yeah.
Well, I created my space though. I created my lane. It wasn't
exactly.
I made it happen.
You did.
Yeah.
You absolutely did. So you could probably answer the question as well as, how do you do it? You just do it, right?
You just do it. I mean, you do it, and you think about the biggest thing I would say, and I think that I think you said this a little differently, but the biggest thing I would say is you need to make connections between people that would not have existed without you, and that you find a way that you're included in the deal. So you're not just introducing people then bouncing. You're introducing people, and your part in your mind, you've already thought out a way where you three could work together, and it would benefit person A and benefit person C, your person B, and in a way that benefits A, B, and C. So everyone's benefiting, everyone's whatever, and this project, this whatever, would not have happened had you not introduced these two people who have different talents, but have talents that complement one another. So if you put yourself into that and just keep doing it over and over and over and over again, you'll always be working, and people will always be happy, and people will bring you onto their projects, and then you keep and the wheel keeps turning. That's
absolutely
how I've done it.
And, we all want it to be great in the sense of, well, now the three of us are collaborating, right? And then here we go. And oftentimes I've, brought people together and then they kind of break off and do their own thing. And that's okay too. Just we have, it's hard in the sense of like the ego wants to be like, well, I did this and I want to be part of it and they're leaving me out now. But really, if we can stand back, because over time, this is a long haul, right? This is like a marathon type of thing, right? Being an artist, you can't just stop being an artist. I tried to stop writing. I almost died, like my soul, right? No. But so letting go of the ego and letting people and collaborations go off and be what they need to be without you, just letting it be.
But also, but I also found that if you practice that, if you're, let's say you're not the person, let's say you're brought in and you cut someone out because this doesn't make sense anymore. That's, I mean, from you now, instead of being the person that brought everything together, now you're somebody that was brought, and then you just okay, and you cut out the person that brought you in. You keep doing that, And that's a bad look. That's a bad look, and it will catch up with you. It will catch up.
It
If
it
you
does.
if you don't know
Yeah.
how to do a favor, it's going to catch up with you. And it's going to catch up with you
Yeah.
a lot more than you think. This is just
I agree. I like to because personalities happen, clash and stuff, and maybe working relationships cannot be long term. I
yeah
try to always remember like who is it that kind of created this, especially when it comes to um, projects and selling things
yeah
on a larger level, like a TV show or getting funding for film, something like that. You want to remember like who was it that brought you in,
yeah.
and when you have that opportunity to acknowledge them, either like give them some money, right? Like if there's money to be that comes in, share, like pay it back, pay that back. So
But then
um,
then they're more inclined to bring you back, and then all of a sudden then the wheel keeps turning. It's not just that it's the right thing to do. It's the intelligent thing to do. And
yeah,
like, so I understand what you're saying earlier about releasing things. Like, don't be bitter, don't be angry just because you brought people together and you got cut out. And I completely agree with you. There's no time for bitterness. However,
yeah,
I would also encourage people to understand that if you're the person that's brought onto projects and you cut out people who bring you into projects, like you're social climbing, you know, that ladder collapses pretty quickly. If you think you're gonna escape by doing that, it's not gonna work, and people will recognize that. Wait a minute, I brought you onto something. You then all of a sudden you had an opportunity to do something for me, and you just chose not to, or you had an opportunity to do certain things, and you're hoarding them now. Like that is that is a
yeah.
very very quick way to a short career. So that
Well,
people should know.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we say, you always hear like, relationships are everything and it's who you know, just specific to the entertainment industry. It really is. Relationships are everything, and it's not like I've set up meetings where I've brought in like a third party with someone that I've worked with for many years and who trusts me, and we have like a, good homey relationship in a way. And in addition to being professional, and it's kind of like, oh, that there's something not right about that other person. And sure, so when you have that relationship and you have that trust with somebody over time, it serves you. And people that kind of are climbing and clamoring um, tend to be pretty obvious when you've had a good long standing relationship with someone.
And I'm not saying this now for those of us to be to for I really embrace your attitude of releasing it, letting it be, and being okay with it, right? But what I also
Mm-hmm.
want to do is I want to discourage people from taking shortcuts and forgetting those
Yep.
who helped them. And remember the people that
Yep.
helped. I'm trying to put it in a
Yep.
positive light, but remember those who helped you, and be true to the team, to the group or whatever. Don't be selfish. It might get you ahead in like a 2 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year period, but that is going to it'll come back to haunt you. So you really got to make sure that you take care of those who take care of you.
That's right.
And I'm not saying, so I want to make sure I'm not saying that in a way that sounds like coming from the bitter side of it, like, oh, how dare you. No, it's more like, don't do that. I'm encouraged.
Right.
Don't do that. Make sure you take care of those who take care of you. That's what I mean to say.
Totally. Yeah. And you know what? Get contracts. Get a contract, because you know what? You'll see I have seen deals fall apart when I put a contract on the table. And you just know. And whatever problems you're having on a small level, when it's big and you're talking about millions of dollars and you're talking about changing your life, and um, you'll see things come
Yeah.
out in people. So get contract. I have no problem just saying it. Get a contract, and people I'm working with right now, I love contracts. I love it. It's like the putting it on the table. Here we go, right? An understanding of responsibility and accountability for delivering on something and fulfilling for a long time, You know, when we're pitching projects and we're pitching a TV show, by the way, like, they don't want to know just like, okay, this is a great idea and season 1 is great, but what's going to happen in season 5? Because that's what they're looking for in television too, right? So anyway.
So any final words, any final plugs, anything people need to follow? No, the dating.
You know, oh, dating well, but that's just like my little side fun thing that I do for me. You know, I just want to tell people, you know, do your blogs, you know, do your content, create your YouTube channel, tell people to like it. You know, pour yourself a glass of wine or whatever it is that you like and just sit and write. You know, 1 in the afternoon, who cares? Just do it. Right now is the time, because you know, we don't have borders, you know, right now. There's no borders. You're interviewing people, you know, all over the world. You know, I'm talking to people a lot, you know, in different countries as well, and we're creating content together. And, you know, the wheels at some point are going to go back in motion, and we're going to have plenty of time to be busy again. Just indulge your craft and your art and your creativity and have fun with it. Oops, my dryer just went off.
And on that note,
right on time.
Right on time. Well, Frankie, I appreciate so much for having joined us. Everyone we've been joined this hour by Frankie, poet extraordinaire, as well as you know, a producer of film and television, with some really solid advice how to get into that industry and just how to just be productive and be a writer in general. Thank you so much, Frankie.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if anybody has any questions about the entertainment industry or anything about anything, you know, shoot me a message here on Facebook. You know, just send me a DM, and you know, I'm happy to help however I can. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Frankie. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.